So we are on the Moray coast today for a shore dive. Looking forward to it. I expect the visibility is going to be pretty decent, although you're never sure until you put the face in the water. But yeah, look forward to it. I've been to this area a few times recently. I've kind of spent a lot of time this year scouring this sort of area of the Moray coast, just trying to find spots that really kind of hold decent sized fish. And I've came across a few decent areas. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy the video. Hopefully we see some fish. Hopefully I shoot some fish. And let's see how we get on. We're probably going to see some seals as well. This area generally has a fair few seals in it. But last time that I was here, I shot a 6-pound pollock when there was a seal like pretty much next to me at the bottom. So I used to be of the train of thought that if seals are about, you're just not going to be able to shoot fish, but a few people more experienced than me, you know, just said, nah, just dive as if they're not there, and as long as they're not kind of actively hunting, you should be alright. So let's see how we get on today. Hopefully you enjoy the video, hopefully we get some good footage. Let's see how we go on. So as expected, as soon as I get into the water, before I even get one dive in, the seal is coming in and checking me out, but not to worry, we just kind of let it do its thing and hope that it shoots off, which it does after a minute. But you can see here the visibility is just absolutely unreal. The bottom here is about 15 to 20 meters, and you can clearly make out all the rock structure. This here is 16 meters, and like I say, can clearly see the bottom structure from the top, which is completely unheard of on the Moray coast, to be honest. This is genuinely the best visibility I've probably ever seen here, so really enjoyable diving. So just doing some aspeto at the bottom and waiting to see if any fish come in. This fish is a shootable fish. It's probably about 3 pounds or so. But to be honest, I was kind of just enjoying the good visibility and wasn't really too worried about shooting a fish on this dive. So I think about it, line it up there, but side against it. And just look at the visibility as I am coming up here. That's like Mediterranean visibility. Absolutely unbelievable. And I really found that, like, with the visibility being so good, it was just very easy to relax, and I was diving really well. Breath hold was feeling really, really strong. And yeah, makes a massive difference. Like on the flip side, when it's very poor visibility and, you know, you can't see where you're going at all, it takes a lot more kind of concentration to kind of get in the zone and actually kind of get into a relaxed state where you can dive well. But yeah, this was just absolutely unreal diving, like so much fun. So there's plenty of pollock kicking about here, and I see this reasonable fish come across. Nothing massive, but certainly shootable. And that's one of the things with the visibility being so good. It's quite hard to kind of gauge the size of the fish. So I thought this fish was like quite borderline, but it was actually like 4 pounds, which is by no means a big fish, but certainly shootable. So that was one on the stringer, and yeah, first fish of the day secured. So with the visibility being so good, I could really kind of choose the areas that I was diving in. So there was a bit of a drop off to my left here, and then a big kind of like drop off with a big kelp bed that you can see here. So I just kind of hunkered down into the kelp, and straight away, just in the shadows in the background, I don't think the GoPro picks it up, but I can see some nice sized looking pollock just kicking about. So I know I'm in a pretty good spot here. So I just kind of hunkered down. Now they don't come in on this dive. But I know that at this point, I know that, you know, even if they don't come on this dive, I'm just going to try and get a few dives in this area and see if I can get one of them onto the spear. So I dropped down again into the same area, and you can see this kind of drop off there and then coming into the kelp bed here. And I just hunker down and I'll just play the whole clip of this dive. And this is just basically an exercise in patience, and why it's good to have a reasonable breath hold. So after about a minute on the bottom, this fish comes in. It's about a 5-pound pollock, so reasonable size. And again, you can just see in this area visibility unreal. And yeah, a couple fish on the spear now. Now that initial seal that I saw at the start of the dive, it just bolted off after about 30 seconds and I never saw it again. This big seal here started following me. Again, I didn't really think too much of it, just kind of let him do his thing. Followed me around for maybe 10-15 minutes or so, but you know, I was kind of just diving with this seal around me and I was still seeing fish, no shooter fish, but there were still fish about. So like I said at the start of the video, kind of just ignore them, don't think too much about it. And just, you know, treat it as if they're not there, because the fish don't disappear into thin air when they, you know, when they're around. They might be slightly less active, but they should still be there somewhere. So I can see this big rock structure sitting up off the seabed with a bit of kelp on top of it. So I drop down, hunker in, and just kind of hold the kelp. And I'm pretty confident that I'm going to see fish around about this structure, because it's a pretty prominent rock structure just sticking out with not much around it. So I was confident if I hunkered down, made a few grunts, there would be some fish come in, which there is, and some good sized fish that unfortunately I don't capitalise on. So you'll see here. So there's some nice, this pollock here at the bottom of the screen, that's a nice sized fish. But, you know, I get my spear out hoping that it's going to swim out in front, and it swims around the other way. I start lining up for that, and then this one comes across. So, yeah, basically just a bit of a shambles there. But it's just one of those things, probably a little bit too much head movement. And yeah, just didn't line up there. So I took another few dives onto that same rock formation there. But yeah, I didn't see any other fish come in. So when I'm diving, I'll always, you know, try and give it about sort of 45 seconds at the bottom before I'll sort of call it quits. If you're not seeing anything straight away, like I'm not here, you know, don't worry. Give a few grunts in the back of the throat and just hold steady. If after 45 seconds or so you're not seeing anything, probably an idea to bolt up. But, you know, you can see here after a little bit of time in the bottom, fish are starting to show, and generally when you see the smaller fish coming in, the bigger ones shouldn't be too far behind them. Of course, not always, but often that's the case. Rarely will you see like the big fish come out straight away. Of course you do sometimes, but generally you won't see anything. You'll see the smaller fish come in, and then behind them you'll see the slightly bigger one. So I could see this big rock from the surface. So my plan here is to drop down just behind this rock and almost kind of rest my arms across the top of it. And so I'm like pretty much standing upright here, just with my arms and head poking up over the top of the rock. So it's a good, easy position to kind of rest in, because you're not trying to hold yourself in position. You're literally just sort of hanging over the rock. And the only thing that's visible is just, you know, your kind of head poking up over the rock. So you're well camouflaged from any fish that are going to come across in front of this rock. So I quite often use kind of rocky structure in that way. Number one, because it's easy to kind of hold the position, and number two, you're kind of well hidden from fish that are in front of you. So I'm just holding steady here, not really seeing much. I can see this fish coming in. Looks like a reasonable sized fish. So, got a good stone shot there. Now my flopper actually just gets stuck on the rock there, so I just have to let my gun go and come up to the surface, but it's not a problem because my gun's on a float line attached to my float, and with the visibility being so good, it's not an issue. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe, and I will post more soon.